Oh, hi, Becky. Thank you so much for coming on. So, everybody, this is Becky Weaver. Um,
Hello.
Thank you so much for doing this for us and coming on. Could
Sure.
you please just tell us a little bit about you and all the things you do related at the moment?
Sure. Absolutely. Yep. So I'm Becky Weaver. I'm the senior editor of Hat Talk e-magazine. So I took over Hat Talk from Ann Morse Brown, who is the wife of Guy Morse Brown, the hat block maker, back in 2009. So I've been doing that for 11 years. I have now edited 132 issues of Hat Talk. So it is a bit every month since then I have done an issue. So that's starting to feel like a big achievement now and starting to make me feel kind of old. But yeah, so I've been doing that for a long time. I didn't come from a background of hats. I came from a writing background, but I very quickly learned a lot about hats. Almost like in my first year, I got to go on some classes with some amazing milliners like Dylan Walwork and Bridget Bailey, and got to know some people. So I understood how hat making worked, and the processes, and where it was able to communicate that to the readers. I've interviewed some milliners all over the world in every magazine. So I've been in the hat world for a long time. And then in 2014, I was interviewing Georgina Abbott at Atelier Millinery. She had a shop in Carnaby in London at the time. Didn't know her. We went out for lunch before the interview, just hit it off, and ended up coming up with an idea of having London Hat Week, which within about half an hour of meeting each other. And we put it on about 6 months later, the first one, thinking it would just be a little event in her shop. And actually that's something that's turned into a much bigger thing. So London Hat Week is annual event. We hold a week of hat making workshops, parties, tours, everything to do with hats in London. And people come from all over the world for that. Obviously, this year was a little different, as it was almost all online, like everything else. But yeah, so that's me.
Wow, that's amazing. So, London Hat Week appeared within half an hour.
The idea kind of was, yeah, it just seemed to be meant to be. Georgina and I just, yeah.
Wow, and it's grown. It's so big now. Did you expect it to be as big as it is at the beginning?
Absolutely not, honestly. I mean, it just seemed like a good thing to try, I think, but it was very clear early on that it had a lot of potential. Like I said, we met, I think it was in October. We kind of started talking about it. We held something at her shop at the time in conjunction with Guy Morse Brown Hat Blocks. You know, we just thought, let's just try and see what we can do. Got some milliners to have classes in their studio. And that very first one, there were people from Japan, from Australia, just from all over the world. And they had hardly had any time to think, to hear about it. They'd hardly had, like, it was just such a new thing. And as soon as we saw that, we just realized there was such a hunger. I think that in the millinery community, you're often working on your own, same thing that you found with what you're doing. And there is just a real hunger for community and for networking and for just meeting like-minded people. So, and also there's so much, there's so much amazing stuff going on with hats in London. So I think that's also something people are really excited about. So.
Hats, England is very big for hats, isn't it?
Yeah.
One of the biggest, in Australia.
Yes.
Places.
Yeah.
Someone said to me the other day you should make in Italy, because I always think I want to go and live in Italy, but hats and London is the place if you want to.
It is, yeah.
And in America as well. Do you think it's getting bigger? Because you're based in America, aren't you?
I am at the moment. Yeah, I'm British originally, and I lived in England, but I came over to the States about 5 years ago again. Yeah, I do. I think that people are, especially everyday hats, I think there's a big market for here. I think especially I'm in the Northeast, it gets really cold. So there's a big market for felt, those kind of like warm hats. And then I've definitely seen, even in the last 5 years that I've been here, an escalating of quality. I shouldn't say quality isn't the right word, but an escalating of the wanting to have really high fashion hats at places like the Kentucky Derby and, generally in the racing. I think that there's a lot of influence from fashions on the field in Australia and from Royal Ascot. And I think that, people are wanting something more couture. And yeah, I definitely think there's a market for that here.
I heard it's growing in America. So not so much just any old thing they put on their head as a hat. It's more couture and classy.
Yeah, statement pieces. Yeah.
That's cool. So from going from the Hat Week, and you just started it, and you were thinking, right, we're going to do this and see how it goes, and now it's all in Australia, and it's starting up in Spain, and it's just going all around the world. Are they, in a way, they're sort of copying, but it's also great because it gets Hat Week all around the whole world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you have a plan at the beginning, a bit of a marketing plan of what you wanted to do when you started Hat Week?
Yeah, I definitely think we did, but I also think it's such a, like I said, it was so much bigger right away than we expected it to be, in the scope of what it could be. So I think that every year we take some time afterwards and really just like look at what happened, what went well, what didn't go so well, and through that, I think it's evolved in what it has become and what it will become. So I think we had a plan, but I also think it's changing. I think a big part of the plan was workshops, millinery education, and just connecting people, some of the teachers who are in London with people who would like to learn from them, some of the, and also teachers from other places who come to teach, and also just connecting milliners with each other. So I suppose, it was just an idea of networking and things, but yeah, I think it's continuing to evolve, and, building our brand and seeing where that can go.
Yeah, it's amazing because now you have all these milliners all around the world sort of doing it online and coming to London to teach. And then you have exhibitions. I think it's the felt makers, they're doing exhibitions now, aren't they, in a hat competition?
That's a separate thing, yeah. But
Sort of
yeah.
Lots of add-on exhibitions that happen around.
Yeah,
as well, which is great. So from all your years as well as Hat Talk, could you share any tips you've learnt from other milliners, maybe from things that because you've done so many magazines now with Hat Talk? Have you picked up any tips that other milliners have given you, or things that you've thought, oh, that's really interesting, I'd love to share that you could share with us?
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of tips for making, but I think you've got a lot of that. But from a marketing point of view, I think one thing that I've seen a number of people do, and I think it's almost sort of what Hat Week does too, is create your own market. Like, so if you live in a small town, where are people wearing hats? Can you make an event where people need to wear hats? Can you connect in with an event? Can you hold a tea party? Can you hold an exhibition? You kind of, I've seen people make a reason. Sometimes I think people are lacking a reason to wear a hat. They could wear a hat every day, obviously, but people don't feel they have anywhere to wear one. So I think that's what we tried to do, but also what I've seen other milliners do in other places is like hold an event, and it doesn't have to be a huge event. It can be a small event, or do a competition, like make a reason for people to wear a hat or to see your hats. I think is
that's a really good idea, because a lot of people live, say in France, in a area where there's hardly anybody wearing hats, or maybe a city nearby, but they're in the country and they just think, well, how am I going to get it out there? So that's a really good idea, to put on an event and organise.
Yeah.
So then make that big thing, and then you don't have to always organise it. You could hand it over to people, but it could end up being something quite big.
Yeah. And I think that's another, important point is collaboration. So, you can't do everything, but maybe you connect up with a restaurant and do a garden party, or, maybe you can work with other people to, but make sure hats are at the center of it, and that your hats are at the center of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And talk as well, I suppose, sort of hat talks, talking about the history of hats, or how to make a hat and things like that would be good. And also it's sort of hats in a way is a slightly crowded market. It's not really compared to dresses. There's a lot more dressmakers, but hats, there's not so many people that wear hats. So everyone's fighting with each other, but at the same time, everybody makes individual pieces. So I don't mind. Well, I just make the hats I want to make, and I don't. And I'm going to teach because other people make the hats they want to make. But still, we're all sort of trying to get to these particular customers. So would you have any tips on, as it's of finding the customers for people, from anything that you've learned from Hat Talk or anywhere else, any other sort of ways of catching them online, maybe, rather than them coming to your studio or to your house?
Yeah. Well, I think, everybody knows if you're running a business, you should be on social media. That's easier said than done. It's really hard, to be consistent with it and keep up with it. But I think it is important. Um, but I think one thing for this industry specifically, and any type of visual industry, is have really good pictures. I think that's one thing
Okay.
I tell people for the magazine, like and for, if you're going to post on Instagram, do your best to show your hats in their best light. Take good pictures, show good pictures, because there is a lot of pictures and images out there online. So if you want people to notice yours, they need to be eye-catching. They need to be stunning. If you can get professional pictures of your work, do it. If you can't, we all have a lot more opportunity, even with the phones we have now, to take good pictures ourselves. And there's ways to learn how to do that. So I think make sure that your images stand out. If you're working online, make sure that your website works. If someone sees the hat, follows the link, goes to it, and then they can't get it in their cart, we're all just instant consumers now. Like, if they're probably not going to stick around and try and get that. So, and if that's a challenge, maybe use something like Etsy. Like, make sure the process is easy, and there's no, it's not difficult for them to buy from you if they do like what they see. And again, collaborations online with other people. It's harder to get your own social media notice, but if you can somehow, get on other people's or in other people's stories, that kind of thing, just
so it's finding the influencers and even other milliners or fashion designers or other people would have your customers. And them sharing your work or showing up in their stories, and then it goes around, isn't it? It comes back to you.
And I think if you are going for like a local market and you're in a smaller town, then focus on that. So don't be trying to get out to everybody in the whole country. If you're looking for people in your town, it's actually easier to get to people in your town. So find local influencers, people that are, especially if you live in a small place, and maybe like you said, designers, bridal wear designers, hairdressers, people that have like complementing skills and industries, so that you're not, that someone's already looking for a wedding dress, maybe then their mother wants a hat from you. So, try and collaborate with people, I think is really important. And I think that's the way everything is going. You can't just keep everything to yourself. You have to network and be vulnerable. And someone else might get a commission over you, but you might get the next one. And I think that's the only way it's working.
So not be scared to put yourself out there and think, well, I'm not going to bother them because maybe they have more followers than me, or they're busy. Don't think like that. Just go for it, meet people, network. You can mix with internet. And I like the thing about the stylists and sort of getting to know them and then sharing your work and things like that. And I think the best place is collaborations and people passing on to you. So also wedding planners as well, I think it's a good thing to go to, because then they can recommend when the time is right. Brilliant. I don't know if you could help with this one, but a lot of people find it hard to think about their actual ideal client. And they're like, well, I could sell to everybody because everybody needs a hat. But then what sort of hat do you make? And do you make it couture way, or do you make it sort of in a factory, and have it done like that? And then it's finding the right customers for you and your exact customer. I mean, some people say, I just want rich people, but it's not everybody that's rich either, is it? I think you should be looking for the person who suits your personality as well. So if you're sort of nice, or you're a quiet person, then you don't want to find people that are really bossy and too crazy and going to take up a lot of your time. You want to find people that maybe have a similar personality to you. You have to look for that. Do you have any tips on like how to find the right customer for you, or figure out who that customer is? Find them.
I think you hit on a lot of things there, but I think it is actually taking some time to be introspective and see what you like to make. First of all, what kind of hats do you like to make? If you only like to make racewear, then that's a clue to who your clients are. If you prefer to make warm everyday felt hats, that's a different clue. So figure out what you are good at and what you like to make. First of all, not saying that, sometimes I think we all have to maybe be a jack of all trades. You know, so you sometimes you have to get good at something. It's not your favorite because that's where the market is. But first of all, know what you love making, and like you said, who you want, what kind of person you want to work with. But also, I think figure out what you would like, and then move from there to where is that person. You know, where do they go? What do and then I think it is a little bit about being realistic. Is that person anywhere near you? You know, do you have a race course within 200 miles? And that's not to say you can't make racewear, but you need to figure out where the people who are traveling to races in your area might be shopping or looking, or are there any, you know. And I think looking at what you want, and then also what's realistic where you are and in your sphere of influence. And that's something you can change and develop, but it's a good place to start, I think.
That's true. So if you want to make for Ascot and you're nowhere near Ascot, then you might find people in your area going to Ascot. But also people need to get to you to try the hat on. Maybe it's not going to be all online. Some of it can be online, can't it?
Yeah, definitely.
You might have Cheltenham near you or other.
Yeah, just kind of figuring out where those connections might be. And
Thank you. Just a sort of a point on trends. Do you know what trends are going to be big for next year? Do you think big hats like Ascot come back? And
I feel like,
or
I mean, it's hard to say. We have nothing to go on, do we, from this year? But yeah, I feel like people are going to want some color and some wow factor, I think, after so much just has been drab in general, you know. So I think people are just going to, when it's safe to go out and people can go out without a worry, I think they're going to feel good and they're going to want to show it, you know. That's my guess. But also people have gotten very used to being very comfortable, so I think they're going to want comfort too.
It's going to be half and half.
Probably things like headbands and stuff. I think they've been big, like you're wearing, you know, they've been getting bigger and bigger, and I think they'll continue because they're easy to wear and they look great.
I don't know if, I assume people are going to go crazy and be all sparkles, but like you say, people are so used to wearing those comfy clothes. And I don't know if masks are going to be in, because are people going to be fed up of wearing masks, or they're going to have masks all over their hats of it.
I feel like once we don't have to wear masks, we're not going to be wearing them, but I don't know. But we might be wearing them for a while, so they might have to. I'm sure people will want coordinating masks if they're required. So.
Just put by June, Ascot, it will be all right again. We'll see.
Let's hope so.
So another question is, you must have met a lot of famous milliners in your time. Did they share any tips with you that other milliners could use? Any sort of, don't tell us any secrets you're not allowed to tell.
I mean, I feel like
people that you thought, oh wow, you know, what they're wearing is crazy and they were interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I have met a lot of milliners and they're all very interesting. I think, you know, I think a lot of them actually that I know are teachers themselves, so they are very generous about sharing practical tips and making tips. I think Ian Bennett is super interesting for me. He's great. He's just always just full of positivity and just fun, and he just has amazing stories, so I always like spending time with him. And he actually spent time in Buckingham Palace for a part of his career. He actually had a studio in the palace, which is insane. So I was interviewing him for a live event at London Havoc and didn't realize that, and he just dropped that, and I was like, what? So yeah, that's amazing. I think
was it a permanent thing, or it was
for a time? Yeah, he was in the studio there, but you'll have to he'll have to tell that whole thing himself, because I don't want to tell it wrong, but I believe that his shop fittings all came into the palace and everything. Like he had his own, or it, whether he was the one using it, his shop ended up inside the house. I don't know. That I shouldn't, you know. I don't want to go too far down that road, but it's it's been amazing to meet people, but also, you know, just to realize it's a small world, the millinery world, but we do have some celebrities in it, but they just tend to be really nice and normal people, and not, you know, intimidating at all, and just really kind and generous with their sharing, and also with wanting to build up the community in general. So that's
I find most of them are actually, you know, I like the hat makers because they're a little bit crazy, and also kind people who want to help.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it is even at the top, it's a hard industry to break into. So I think that they understand the struggle, you know, and have worked hard to get where they are, and understand that. And I think the other thing that I love hearing people like Dylan, Rachel, Trevor Morgan talk about is like the people that actually had that last chance to work in the workrooms, which are, you know, pretty much gone now, of like the couture, like Philip Somerville and Freddie Fox and all those ones that actually got to see that, the process of how it used to be, and that kind of training environment where you just learned perfection, basically. You know, I think that's amazing. And that's kind of like, it's a shame, but it's kind of in fashion in general, it's changing a lot, you know, how things are done, with all that handwork.
We've got to try and keep those things alive, haven't we? Not using glue, but sewing everything, and stitching, and hiding your stitches, and make that alive, because that's what makes it really special. I think anybody can just get a headband and glue things on, but a milliner has to work out how to do it in a certain way to hide all their stitches. And I like it. I like figuring that out.
One thing I remember, I think it was Rachel Trevor Morgan saying, it was like, you know, she started really young in one of the workrooms. I can't remember which one, but it was like, you were on a certain duty, you know, like maybe it was sewing in the ribbon, the headband, for weeks. Like that's all you were doing every day, loads and loads of times. And that's how they got so good at what they did, was just so much practice of those kind of almost like mundane parts of it. It's not the beautiful outside part, but it's getting that inside right. And it was just like, you're not going to get that good unless you just do it and do it and do it and practice it, you know.
I heard a story once. I met Philip Tracy when I was young, when I first got out of uni, and I heard a story that if you work with him, he'll make you straighten wire for 2 years before you do anything else. I don't know if that's
my gosh.
Someone just telling me that.
I've heard that. Yeah, that's the kind of thing you hear from people who worked in some of those places, and I think, well, that's why they can do what they can do. You know, it doesn't come by chance.
Yeah, I love the way he has all his own blocks made for each client, and then
amazing.
And you met Stephen Jones, obviously. You must have met him quite a few times, and you got him involved in Hat Week as well. So what was that like, and how did you get him involved in it?
We just actually asked him, and I had met him a few times, but didn't know him that well, and didn't know if he'd say yes. But he, like I said, I mean, he especially is a huge supporter of the millinery industry, the British millinery industry, and he was just extremely generous and gracious. And we asked him to come, I think that was 2017, he and Hillary Alexander, to do like a live interview, and they both came. And also I think we were doing it that year in support of Brain Tumor Research, which is our main charity partner. So I think that they were also, you know, happy to support that cause, but they just came and gave their time, and, you know, and it was great. But I have since met, he's since been very supportive of Hat Week in general, and I've worked with him on the British Hat Guild and things like that, and he's his passion is really not what he can get out of it, but he does want to see the next generation come up and see the industry and the skills remain, I think. So he's happy for anything that's doing that.
I get that impression from him that he does really help, and he's done every Hat Week, hasn't he, except for this last one during COVID.
No, the British Hat Guild did a panel discussion, and he was in that too this year. So
cool. He's a very nice man. Also, lastly, do you have any thought of marketing tips? Because I want to sort of to help people with the business side of it and get any marketing tips to do with hats. And you've mentioned a few of them, but anything to do with websites, or, you know, when you bring in the customer, sort of keeping them there and helping them and nurturing them to, you know, maybe they'll buy a hat at the end of the day, because maybe they'll come on your website and they don't want a hat yet, or they might meet you at an event and they might take your card, but how to then keep them interested in you, and how to make them buy from you maybe in a year's time when they actually need that hat.
Yeah, I think it's really important to keep in touch with people. And I think, you know, with the e-magazine, I I don't know, many of you might even get our newsletters, but Catherine from Guy Morse Brown and I write write a newsletter each month under How To Hats, which is, just touching base with people. And we've been doing that for 15, they've been going out for 15 years, and we've built up a mailing list because, I think it's really, really important to keep in touch with people. So first of all, if you meet people in person, try and get their email address with consent, do everything the right way. But, don't go spamming people, emailing them every day. But people are quite happy to hear from you, especially if you have positive messages and you're telling them about things that they'd be interested in. That's what we've always tried to do is, it's not just like we're sending out emails to sell things. We're trying to tell people, oh, this exhibition's happening here, this is happening. We always invite people to tell us if they're doing an event, so that you need to be giving them something that's of benefit to them, that you're not just selling, but you're also giving them, some added value. But you do want to, maybe it doesn't need to be that often. Maybe it's 4 times a year or something, but just touch base with people through an email. And it's important to do that properly. So there's a lot of laws about how you handle email addresses and data. You can use something like MailChimp or Constant Contact, anything like that. You have to pay after you get above a certain number, but while your list is just starting to grow, they're usually free for that kind of thing. And they give a lot of templates and help on how to make a newsletter look good. So I think that would be my biggest tip. It's the same with Hat Week. I mean, that is, how we have reached people, how we've told people what we were doing. We kind of went out, we have a way of communicating. So I think that's really important. And email or other formats, maybe Instagram Live, I don't know, but just have a regular way of communicating. But the good thing about using something like Constant Contact is that you do have a contact address that you can go straight to them.
Do you think blogs are also important? So if they write a blog every week or every 2 weeks, because that always helps with the website.
Yeah.
I think this day and age, blogs are still relevant.
Yeah, I think blogs are good. I think they help with SEO. I think it's like Google likes when new content is coming on your website. I think a good practice to do might be, just send out a quick, like if you've published 4 blogs that month or 2 blogs that month, just at the end of the month, just send a little message out saying, here's links to the blogs I've published. That's a good way of tying the 2 things together.
Yes. You've got an excuse to write something to them.
Right. And you're bringing people to the blogs traffic wise, which is also good for your SEO. So.
Yeah. And then getting them from things like Instagram and they like your product, trying to get them to go to your bio so they could go to your website.
Yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare.
Isn't
Yeah. And I think, Instagram's offering more options for shopping, selling on their platform, and hopefully that'll get a little easier for people.
Yeah. And also doing, like, I never used to really do stories on Instagram, but now I'm more into it because I know that that's the quickest way of getting followers and getting people up.
Yeah.
And now though, even more, they want you to do videos on Instagram.
Yeah, I know.
Where you are building your brand, isn't it? It's like if you want to build a luxury brand, you've got to be in luxury places, and then you've got to Instagram and build this whole story around what you do, and who you are, and then that will filter back into your website.
Yeah, and it's hard work. And I think one thing I have learned over the years from both businesses is, just do it in bite-sized chunks. Like you can so easily get overwhelmed by the whole of like everything I should be doing, or, and you can only do so much. And a lot of times if you get too worried about that, you end up doing less or doing nothing. You get kind of scared and you just stop altogether. So kind of give yourself manageable goals. Just think of ways you can build things slowly, if that is just starting a mailing list, and just seeing where that goes. Maybe just say, I'm just going to do a story once every 2 weeks, just like to start. I think you just have to give yourself something achievable, so you don't get overwhelmed with it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the issues in our membership site in the Millinery Academy, is that people will start and then they'll think, God, I need to learn so much, so much, and then they're like, oh, I can't do this, and they might break. But like it's just little bits at a time, and you don't have to do everything. So you don't have to do every social media channel.
No.
I was talking to a marketing person the other day about all these different things that I do, and she says, you know what, you're probably doing too much. You're doing
Yeah.
everything you think you should be doing, like you just said.
Yeah.
You don't have
Yeah.
to do it all. So
Yeah.
evaluate what you are doing and what works.
Yeah. Yeah. And where you're getting engagement and focus on that platform, because that's not the same for everybody, I think. But that's another way of finding out who your clients are too. Where are you connecting with people? Who are they? What age are they? What kind of thing are they into? And that would help where your customers are too, I think.
So when you're doing the hat talk, how do you find, obviously you want milliners to read it, how do you find them? Is it mostly on Instagram or mostly on Facebook?
I think those are the two platforms I definitely focus on most. I've kind of forsaken the other ones, like you said, because I think you have to just figure out where you are. So yeah, I think through that, and then we have just a very well established list. I guess we've been going for so long that it works really well because of the connection with the hat blocks. So people are looking for blocks, they find out about the magazine, they're looking at the magazine, they find out about the blocks. So that works really well together. And then just being
collaborating, aren't you, in a way? It's their magazine.
Yeah.
You're taking it, you're making it so much bigger and better, and so if people in the academy were collaborating a little bit more with other people,
exactly,
not a milliner, but somebody that
related, right? So find something, like I was saying, a hairdresser, or something related. And I think I have the last few years definitely been trying to do, or we have been working on SEO quite a bit. So we have so many projects online and stuff, and I've just been aware that you have to word things so people will find it just from straight Google searches. It might not come from social media. So we have loads of projects on Cinema, for instance. So it's thinking about what would people actually search for if they're looking for that, what kind of terms are they using? And that's really important for SEO. So if you're selling hats, like, you don't use words that only milliners know. If you're looking for hat wearers, what what that style of hat is called, but someone who's looking for it might not know that. So ask friends who, like, what would you call this? If you were looking for this online and you had no idea what cinema was, what would you call this kind of hat? And actually work those words somehow into your website and into your SEO so that you're getting, targeted Google searches, because we do have the benefit of not being like you said, we're not on the same millinery, hats are not as big as dresses, for instance. So we can get further, I think, with SEO sometimes than you can if you're in a very overrun market of like jeans. If you're making jeans, it's like going to be really hard to get to the top. But I think with hats, you can just think of creative ways and things that you want to call things, and again, blogs you want to write that would catch people's searches for what you do.
Yeah, so you've got to put the words into, that's a really good point, because I would use things like cinema hat, headpiece. I say not many people would probably use that word. And it's putting it into the text, but also putting it into tag words, making sure that your blog or your whatever you're writing, so
whatever word you choose for your keyword, your blog needs to say that in a natural way. Try and say that a few times, because that actually reinforces the word.
And what other things? I mean, SEO is such a big thing. When I think of SEO, I think of, you have your website, obviously, you do that, you tag words, you have your blog, you have your social media, and then, but it could be so many different things. And then you have your mailing list, and you get people to sign up to your mailing list. So you have to have something on your mailing list saying, give us your email address. Book. But do you have any other ways that you deal with SEO? Any other tips?
I don't know, like we use like software that helps. I think that's one thing, like, we're not SEO, like if you're not an expert, if you have, like, for instance, a WordPress website or whatever website you have, there's probably a plugin or a software that's not that expensive that you can put in there that will actually generate, or there's different, even Google has tools that will generate keywords that you can do research. I think that's a big one, do keyword research. What are people actually searching for? Identify your ideal client, going back to that. What is that type of person searching for? What words, and when it's related to hats, and work those in there. But I think using tools is really important. Like I, Google definitely has some free ones, but if you're using WordPress, I recommend Yoast is a good one. There's a free version, or you can get the premium version, but it will, on every single post and page, it will kind of give you suggestions and help you if your wording is SEO friendly and all that kind of thing. Make sure that your website is registered with the Google Search Console. But again, there's a lot of things that you can run, like an SEO check on your website, and it'll tell you what you need to do, and do the ones you can do. So
not everything, you can't do everything.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and do you do Google Ads? Do you use Google Ads at all?
We have a bit. We've tried with Facebook ads and Google ads, and I think it's just always, you always have to keep your eye on what you're getting out of it, because I think we definitely saw sales from it, but it's also kind of expensive. So you have to weigh up, you need to always check, am I spending more than I'm making from this ad? If so, it's not worth it, and how can we refine that? So just be aware of that, I think.
It's going to be a minefield, couldn't it? And you could actually spend a lot of money on things like Google Ads. I don't think it's anything anyone needs to think about just yet.
Right.
Unless they're at a certain level, and then they just want to push it a bit more, because we can do everything, so many things for free now, actually.
Yeah.
The Instagrams and everything. I do a few Facebook ads when it comes to the academy, but I think that's quicker, because I know that people are then coming into the academy. They can come in, they can see it, they can do the challenge. But if you're selling a hat, that person might not need that hat for 6 months. So they get your details, and then you don't know if they come from Google or not. So
and you're paying every time someone clicks on that ad, whether or not they buy from you or not. So you just need to make sure it's the right time and you have the budget for it, I think. But I think they can be really good tools if they're used properly. And again, there's just make sure you read up about it and understand what you're doing. Don't just throw money at it without.
And I recommend everybody does some research on SEO. We'll have more information on it as well on the academy soon. Just Google it a little bit, because it might sound a bit boring, but it is interesting when you get into it. And that's going to bring, when you start doing things, it starts working, then it's going to be more exciting.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. Could you tell us a bit about the Hat Talk? So we've got a special offer, haven't we, if anybody wants to join Hat Talk at the moment. And in there you have, like you said, loads of tutorials from milliners, lots of different tips and tricks, and then interviews with milliners, and sort of, do you have like different hat trends as well? What's happening?
Yeah, well, the magazine tends to, there's all different things. We feature winning hats from around the world, interviews with milliners, again, tutorials. There's a tutorial in every issue. There's hints and tips. And what we're doing, our big project at the moment is moving all of the tutorials that have been in all the issues over the years onto an online project library as well. So there's more than one way to access these things and to search for them. But at the moment we have 180 issues, because we have normally we go to Ascot every year and we do a whole issue of all the hats at Ascot, or many hats at Ascot. And a subscription is it's $5 or less than £4 a month, and you get access to everything, so unlimited. So every issue you can download. You can look at everything as much as you want, and you can go. We have over 75 projects on there. You can just use as much as you want. So it's very good value as it keeps growing.
And I think if we got 20% off.
Yeah, exactly. So I think your coupon is Elizabeth.
Yes. I'll link it on the Facebook. I'll also put it into notes here if anybody wants to join, have a look at that. And then you get 20% off, and it's only for nearly £4 anyways a month. So it's not that much, and you get a lot with it.
And if you pay for the whole year, it's an extra 10% off. You can use both together. So it's a lot. We just want to have it be a tool that connects people, and that just can complement things like what you're doing here at the Academy. I think it's just like an extra source of inspiration, and that you'll hear about things that we're doing through the year, like we do an annual competition, which is
that's good.
Which is
I think actually we should have a Millinery Academy competition. from people, the things that people make, and we should maybe do it, you know, but then it could be it's just working out to do that because it could grow. Very time consuming, but
it is, yeah.
Maybe something to do with Hat Week. Tell us a bit about Hat Week as well. When is it going to be happening next year? Do you know yet?
That is to be decided still. We just need to wait and see what's happening in the world, I think, a little bit longer. So we were talking, and we needed a break after it. Last year was very difficult. It had to be moved a couple of times, or this year, I guess, had to be moved a couple of times. And yeah, so we're just seeing how to move forward. It will be until we really know when public gatherings can take place. It's hard to.
It'd be nice to do it again and have an evening, wouldn't it? And have drinks.
It would be nice, yeah. So we'll see how things go.
Great. Okay.
And join our mailing list if you want to know when the next one is, because we'll be
to have to go to London Hat Week.
And just join the mailing list. Yeah.
Okay. So that's brilliant. Thank you so much for your help and tips and things like that.
Thank you for having me. It's great.
Thank you. Oh, and so we're going to have a bit of a Q&A as well, where the guys can come on and ask any questions they might have.
Cool.
Just sort of 20 minutes or so, or half an hour. So it's going to be in January, and I'll give everybody the date. I think did I give you the date?
Not sure I think so.
We'll get the date. So that'll be really nice. So everyone can look forward to seeing you then.
Great.
And I'll also have a bit of a workbook in so people can work through that. That's going to be below the intro. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine.
Have a good day.
All right, you too. See you. Bye.
Bye.